And I work these days mostly in the creamery making cheese along with a couple of other people. And today is only our second day of making cheese of the season. We're just cranking the creamery up now that the big kitting push is over. So we've got some fresh chev in process hanging on the carts, and then today we're making one of our most popular cheeses, a soft ripened cheese that we call bark eater bouche. So
and this is our parlor. We're milking 40 now. So the only grain they get is here in the parlor. It's a ration which we evaluate a couple times a year. The nutritionist at Poulain will make a judgment based on what else they're eating and balance it. This is called a low-line pipeline system, and it's because the pipeline is below the level of the animals. You can have, in a cow dairy or these, you can have midline and highline. We went with this design because it's supposed to be a little more gentle on the animals because the milk goes down. And we have a variable speed pump that you'll hear, which is also very nice because when you have 12 goats on and then you take one off and take another off and take another off, the pump suction in the pump goes down. It's a variable speed.
very intuitive.
This is the milk jar here. The milk goes into this. It's called a jar. They used to be in many dairies. Still today, it's a big glass device, but it's a stainless steel tank. And the milk comes up this pipe. You'll hear as this tank fills up, it'll be pumped by a pump down there up this pipe and it will drop into one of the bulk tanks. We'll go in there and you'll see how Julietta sets up. And then at the end, there's a vacuum system which we can control here, which will push with air the last column of milk so we don't lose all the milk in the pipe. There's 12, as you can see. There's 6 inflations, or 6 setup for 12 goats. So that, again, it's a distinction from a cow parlor. You'll milk 6 goats and then you'll move over one because they milk out relatively quickly. So we're servicing 12 animals with 6 sets of inflations. So now she's set up. She's turned the system on. It has the little U's or udders, so you know it's on the right system. Very same routine as for cows or any other milking. This is a teat dip. This is just to clean the udders. It's an antiseptic. Now she'll take a strip cup and she'll take 1 squeeze of milk out of each goat. If there's any bacteria, it'll be in the first bit of milk that comes out, so that's why we do that. So you see she's going every other goat,
Yeah.
and then she'll milk it, and then she'll switch. She'll move over.
After the goats get milked, the milk gets pumped into a big tank where it gets pasteurized. Once pasteurized, the cheese making process begins, as you can see in this video here.
Cheese making is really immortalizing milk, I guess you could say. You know, you're taking milk and you're playing with it and turning it into something that would last a lot longer than it otherwise would. And we do that by adding cultures to the milk, and the bacteria cultures. And the bacteria causes the milk to acidify, and that the acid causes the curd to develop and the whey to, separate. So yeah, the bacteria turns the lactose, the sugars in the milk, into lactic acid, and it's that lactic acid byproduct that acidifies the milk, and then the curds, or the solids, the fats and the proteins solidify, and the moisture, the water, separates. And yeah, so it's that all those, the solids are what makes the cheese.
Well, what makes the cheese taste different from one cheese to another then?
Well, it depends on, to some extent, it depends on what cultures you add. It also depends on whether you heat it up to this temperature or heat it up to that temperature. It depends on whether you let the pH go down to this level or to this level. So it's a combination of, the cultures to some extent, but really pH, temperature, and salt. And all the variations of that determine what cheese ends up being like. And then of course the aging, if you can, like we make a Gouda cheese right now that after about 90 days, it's really mild and very, very moist, or real meltable and everything. But if we keep it for a year, and even though it's in a high humidity environment, it will dry some, but that continuous moisture escaping or evaporating, it intensifies the flavor. So after a year, it's like bursting with flavor. It's really it's very delicious. The 90-day-old Gouda is delicious too, but in a totally different way. So, so aging and how long you let it be and mature and let time work on it has an impact too. But yeah, it's really just it's all time, temperature, pH, salt.
This is a make room. And there's a small make room to the right, which has got a 26-gallon vat. And this is a 105-gallon vat. So we can make cheese in either. We started with the smaller one and then we graduated to the bigger one, and we kept the smaller one to do experiments in small batches, early season, late season. And there are two rooms in here which are aging rooms for the Bloomy Rind cheeses, soft ripened. They will come out of molds in a day. They'll be in one aging room, which is called a drying room, for a few days, and then I'll move into an environment right in here, which is an aging room for up to about a month. There are tome, Oswego Valley tome we call it, is over on the left. There's a goat milk Gouda, which we call Gladsheim, on the right. And they're aged at least 60 days, and they're good for a year, sometimes even longer. And these are blue cheese here. We keep the rum at a humidity, we try and keep it around 80 to 90%, just by putting mist in the rum. The ceiling is curved, very traditional in cheese cave design to prohibit dripping. And circulation. It promotes the circulation of air. And
So what's the age range of cheeses in here?
that's a good question. I would say, well, certainly all of last year's and some of 2019 are still in there.
Okay.
Or 2020 is in there. And right now we're cutting wheels from November of, no, we're cutting wheels, I guess we must be in May or June of last year.
Okay.
There's something to do every day, because if we're not transferring milk and actually working with the milk, there is packaging to do, or we have to turn the cheeses, or we have to salt them, or something like that. So there's some little job to do every day, but we make cheese 4 days a week. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.